When it comes to the history of the Bible, there are all types of conflicting reports and who was a part of the translation process and how did it come together and has it been corrupted in some sorts? Well, I wanted to present to you guys an article that I found extremely interesting. Many people don't know that the Bible is the oldest book from antiquity, meaning that there are more manuscripts for the Bible than any other writing from that period. And oftentimes people hold it to unrealistic standards. But I believe that God is so good that even though there was massive persecutions against Christians, that the Bible was still preserved in terms of these manuscripts as well as collections of it. And so this is a pretty interesting article about one of the world's oldest Bibles, okay? Ethiopian Bible is oldest and most complete on earth, all right? So this is fascinating. Okay, so he's holding it here. Check this out. It says, world's first illustrated Christian Bible discovered at Ethiopian monastery. The world's earliest illustrated Christian book has been saved by a British charity which located it in a remote Ethiopian monastery. The incredible Garima Gospels are named after a monk who arrived in the African country in the 5th century and is said to have copied them in just one day. So that's like the lore about it, right? Beautifully illustrated. The colors are still vivid, and thanks to Ethiopian Heritage Fund, has been conserved. Abba Garama arrived from Constantinople in 494 AD. Legend has it he was able to copy the Gospels in a day because God delayed the sun from setting. So this is kind of like some of the folklore around it, right? And I mean, this is beautiful. The incredible relic has been kept ever since the Garama Monastery near Adwa in the north of the country, which is the Tigray region at 7,000 feet. Experts believe it is also the earliest example of bookbinding still attached to the original pages. The survival of the Gospels is incredible considering the country has been under Muslim invasion, Italian invasion, and a fire in the 1930s destroyed the monastery's church. They were written on goat skin in the early Ethiopian language of Giz. There are 2 volumes which date from the same time, but the second is written in a different hand from the first. Both contain illustrations and the 4 Gospels. Though the text had been mentioned by occasional travelers since the 1950s, it had been thought they had dated from the 11th century at the earliest. So they thought they were from the 11th century, but it's actually much earlier than that. Carbon dating gives the dates between 330 and 650. This is incredible. The first volume could be in his hand, even if he didn't complete the task in the day, as the oral tradition states. That's another thing about the Bible, folks, to understand, is we're talking about oral tradition cultures and not our modern cultures. These are folks that were passing down this information in oral traditions, right? It was also incredibly rare to access the text, so experts can conserve them on site. It is now hoped that the Gospels will be put in a museum at the monastery where visitors will be able to view them. Blair Pride from the Ethiopian Heritage Fund said Ethiopia has been overlooked as the source of these fantastic things. Many of these old Christian relics can only be reached by hiking and climbing to remote monasteries, as roads are limited to these mountainous regions. All work in text has been done and everything is reversible, so the future they can be taken away from further conservation. We won't have hindered that. The pages had been crudely stitched together in a restoration in the 1960s, and some of the pages won't even turn, and they were falling to pieces. So it's dope that they put together this entire, they re-put it together. So I wanted to show you guys another article that's really interesting about the oldest collection of Bibles across all cultures, right? So check this out. The oldest Bible that we have is the Codex Vaticanus. I think that's how you say it, right? And this is from the year 300 to 335. That's old. 300 to 335, all right? And the language that it was written in is Greek. As you guys know, the New Testament was written in Greek, all right? Codex Vaticanus has been kept at the Vatican Library since around the 15th century and is the oldest known Bible in existence. The verses are printed on sheets of vellum, and it is believed that it was translated by at least 3 scribes. Most scholars believe the Codex Vaticanus is the most accurate Bible in existence, as it was written only a couple of hundred years after the death of Jesus. It is also considered to be one of the best translations of a Greek Bible. Though this isn't a complete translation of the Bible, it is remarkably intact and mostly complete. It's missing most of Genesis, Hebrews, and Revelations. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. Okay, so that's 300 to 305 AD, right? And then you have Codex, I don't know how you say that word, the Sinai Bible, basically, little later than that, right? The Codex Sinaiticus was widely considered to be the oldest Bible in existence until the actual oldest Bible was scientifically dated. The manuscript was discovered in the 19th century, though it was incomplete. Other parts of the same manuscripts were found in the 20th and 21st century. Today, the majority of these parts are on display at the British Library, which is in London. When you look at it as a whole, there are large parts of the Old Testament that are missing. However, it is widely accepted that originally the full Old Testament was part of the Codex. Approximately half of the Old Testament remains, and the new full Testament is part and full. So here's something that's interesting here. You notice that both of these dates before the 300 to 330 AD are before Rome was Christianized. And these are areas outside of Rome, okay? And so a lot of the stuff you get is the Bible was put together at the Council of Nicaea, right? Which is just not true, because these manuscripts came from way earlier than that. So the Council of Nicaea was in 325. That means that these Bibles were in circulation before the Council of Nicaea, okay? So that there was already a collection of books that we consider the Bible that were in circulation, and people had these. And these are just the ones we have today. And the beautiful part about this is when you look at all of these different manuscripts, that have been preserved, the best preserved books from antiquity, the crazy part is there are minor textual variants, typos, words mistranslated, little things. But overall, the actual scriptures are the same, and they don't change any essential Christian doctrine. That's pretty incredible. And so then there's the Codex of Alexandrius, which came after the Council of Nicaea. Here, I'll put this on the screen for you guys. So that was a little later. This is also a Greek translation. This was found in Egypt, Alexandria, Egypt, right? And so there was more and more of these Bibles that were discovered over time. And basically, they were discovered later, meaning they're older, but they were discovered later in time because they were stored away. Right, and so as you go down this rabbit hole, you'll discover that our different translations use different manuscripts, and there's controversy on which manuscripts are more accurate. Is it the ones that are the oldest, or is it the ones that there's more manuscripts of, meaning more copies of? But it is pretty incredible that you can find these old Bibles, and they're on displays in museums together, and they're still the same. Hopefully that was encouraging to you guys. Hopefully you found that interesting. If you did, let me know if there's any specific questions you have about this that we can go deeper on. I could try to bring on some textual critics. One of the best resources on this, if you've ever wanted to go the rabbit hole on, is the Bible trustworthy? Is the Bible trustworthy? If you ever wanted to go down the rabbit hole of this, and maybe I'll do a reaction to it. It's really long. You can check out Dr. James White debate the leading textual critic, who is an agnostic, Dr. Bart Ehrman. Okay, and they do a 3-hour debate on the textual variants, how many variants, what do they have any specific implications on the New Testament, how did we come to these conclusions? All of that is very fascinating. So James White, Bart Ehrman having that conversation, I think is something every Christian should watch. Why? Because I think all of us should know how the Bible came to be. Right? You read in the book and you don't even know how we got it and where the manuscripts are from and what manuscripts became to our modern translations, right? And how did they come together to figure out what was going to be translated? It is a beautiful topic and a good debate that I encourage every Christian to know about, right? Hey, this is a segment from our daily after party stream. Consider partnering with us online for as little as $5 a month to get access to these daily after party streams completely unedited. You'll also get access to our podcast as they are streamed live into the community before anyone else gets to see them, get to interact with our guests, get access to our private Discord server, and a discount code for our store for as little as $5 a month. Ultimately, that will help towards helping us continue contextualizing the gospel using media and podcast here on YouTube. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.